When Jungkook unexpectedly meets Yubi during a photo shoot, a silent tension unfolds, filled with shy glances, unspoken words, and undeniable chemistry. The camera flash burned through the quiet air like lightning. Jungkook froze mid-pose, the metallic scent of studio lights and the faint hum of a turning fan pressing into his senses. He hadn't expected her. Not here, not now. Yubi stood at the far end of the set, adjusting her white silk blouse as the stylist fussed around her. For a brief moment, their eyes met through the mirror's reflection, hers calm yet trembling, his wide and unguarded. Jungkook, we're ready for the next shot. The photographer called out, breaking the fragile stillness that had stretched between them. He blinked, forcing a breath. The rhythm of his heartbeat felt too loud, too revealing. He turned his gaze away, pretending to check the monitor, but every fiber of him knew she was there. Her presence like a gravity he couldn't resist. Yubi took a hesitant step forward, her heels clicking against the floor. The sound echoed, sharp and delicate, pulling Jungkook's attention back to her. The set lights painted her face in gold, outlining the curve of her lips as she offered a polite nod. "It's been a while, Jungkook-sensei," she said softly. Her voice trembled, but the faint smile at the edge of her lips betrayed something deeper. Nostalgia, maybe, or unfinished memories that he swallowed hard. "Yeah, it's been a while." His voice came out rougher than intended. He cleared his throat, eyes darting away again. The tension between them was thick enough to taste. Even the crew seemed to sense it. The air felt heavier, the chatter dimmer. The photographer clapped his hands. "All right, let's start with a pair shot. You two closer, please." The world seemed to shrink around them. Jungkook stepped forward, unsure where to put his hands. His pulse raced as Yubi stood beside him, her perfume, a faint blend of jasmine and cedarwood, wrapping around him like a whisper of another time. The camera clicked, one shot then another. But the moment her shoulder brushed his, a jolt of something electric surged through him that he forced a smile. She did too, both perfectly composed for the camera, both utterly undone inside. Beneath the flash and the mechanical rhythm of the shutter, a quiet storm brewed. Memories neither had spoken about, questions neither dared to ask. "Beautiful," the photographer murmured, adjusting his lens. "Hold that expression. You two have chemistry." Yubi blinked, her cheeks tinged with pink. Jungkook tried to laugh it off, but the sound came out brittle. He could feel the warmth radiating from her, the delicate tremor in her breath. Every second felt longer than it should. During a short break, Yubi moved to the corner of the set, sipping water while staring at her reflection in the mirror. Her mind spun with things she wanted to say. "Do you still remember that night under the rain? The song you hummed when you thought I was asleep?" But she said nothing. Words, she realized, could only ruin the fragile peace of this moment. Jungkook, from a distance, watched her with quiet desperation. He wondered if she still hated him, or worse, if she had already forgotten him. The room felt colder despite the blazing lights. He wanted to walk over, to say something simple like, "You look well," but his throat tightened each time he tried. The photographer called him back again. Last scene, soft expressions, natural connection. Natural connection. How ironic, Jungkook thought, as he turned toward her. His chest tightened when she smiled, eyes shimmering beneath the light. For a fleeting second, it didn't feel like acting anymore. The way her gaze softened, the way their fingers brushed, none of it felt rehearsed. And then, the camera clicked for the final shot. When it was over, silence filled the studio. Crew members began packing up, laughter returning to the room like distant echoes. But Jungkook and Yubi stood there, unsure what to do next. He took a half step forward. She met his eyes, a faint, knowing smile playing on her lips. "Good work today," she said quietly. "Yeah," he whispered back. "You too." It wasn't much. But behind those few words lay everything they couldn't say. The past they never resolved, the feelings that never really left. And as they walked away from the set, opposite directions, yet with one lingering glance, the world seemed to blur into the brightness of a single camera flash, capturing forever the moment when shyness met longing, and silence spoke louder than words. The whispers after the flash, after the photo shoot. Rumors swirl online about Jungkook and Liu Yubi's shy encounter, forcing them to face old emotions they thought were long buried. The studio was silent again, but the world outside was not. By the time Jungkook returned his car, his phone was already buzzing relentlessly. Notifications stacked one after another like pounding raindrops on a window pane. Hashtag Jungkook Yubi. Hashtag Photoshoot chemistry. Hashtag shy but sweet. The headlines were spreading like wildfire. He scrolled through one post. A fan capture behind-the-scenes clip had gone viral. His hesitant smile beside Yubi, her shy glance downwards, their hands almost touching. The caption read, "Their eyes say more than words ever could." Jungkook exhaled, leaning back in his seat. The city lights outside his window blurred into streaks of gold and blue. "It's just one shoot," he muttered to himself. "People will move on." But even as he said it, he didn't believe it. Across the city, Liu Yubi sat in her dressing room, still wearing the remnants of makeup that caught the soft studio glow. Her phone vibrated on the counter, but she didn't reach for it. The reflection in the mirror seemed like someone else, someone who had smiled too easily, who had let her guard down. The door creaked open. Her manager peeked in. "Yubi, you saw the posts, right?" She nodded slowly. "Yeah, I did. Fans love it. But producers are asking questions. They want to know if it's a PR stunt." Yubi let out a small, humorless laugh. "Of course they do." She picked up her phone, scrolling past countless clips, edits, and slow-motion videos of her and Jungkook standing too close. Each one felt like a mirror reflecting the things she was trying not to feel. When she finally opened a private message, one that had been unread for months, her heart skipped. The name was simple. "JK, hey, can we talk?" She stared at it for a long time before locking her screen. The memories of their last conversation came rushing back. The argument, the rain-soaked night, the silence that followed. She told herself it was over, that she had moved on. But now, after that photo shoot, everything felt undone. Meanwhile, Jungkook sat in his dimly lit apartment, the quiet hum of the refrigerator the only sound breaking the tension in his mind. He couldn't stop replaying the moment. The way her voice had sounded, the faint tremor when she said his name. He poured himself a glass of water, but his hands were trembling. He opened his messages again, typing something, deleting it, typing again. Finally, he wrote, "It's crazy, right? The way people still notice things we try to hide." He hit send before he could stop himself. That a minute passed. Then another. Then the screen lit up. "Maybe we were never that good at hiding," she replied. A small, involuntary smile tugged at his lips. Later that night, the storm broke over Seoul. Rain splattered against the windows, drumming like impatient fingers. Jungkook leaned against the glass, watching droplets trace paths down the pane. His mind wandered, back to the night years ago when he and Yubi had stood under a single umbrella, their shoulders touching, laughter echoing softly between the narrow streets of Itaewon. He could still remember how her perfume mixed with the rain, how he'd wanted to tell her everything but couldn't. Back then, he was just a boy afraid of ruining something beautiful. Now, he was a man realizing that silence had already done the ruining at the same time. Yubi found herself standing on her balcony, rain soaking through her thin robe. She didn't care. She looked up at the dark sky, her mind a swirl of thoughts she'd long buried. Her phone buzzed again. Another message from Jungkook. "Do you still listen to that song we made together?" She hesitated, fingers hovering over the screen. The song, an unreleased demo they'd written together before their fallout, was a secret no one else knew about. It was a piece of them, frozen in time. "Sometimes," she replied, "when I can't sleep." There was a long pause. Then his reply appeared. "I still remember every lyric." Yubi bit her lip, her chest tightening. The rain fell harder, washing away the city's noise. In that moment, she realized something terrifying. No matter how much she tried to move on, part of her was still waiting. The next morning, chaos awaited them both. The entertainment news feeds were ablaze with speculation. Articles screamed, "Jungkook and Liu Yubi reignite old flames," and "secret song revealed." hidden clues between BTS's Jungkook and actress Yubi. Their management teams scrambled to contain the situation, crafting careful statements and denials. But the more they denied, the louder the whispers grew. When Jungkook arrived at the HYB building that afternoon, reporters were already camped outside. Cameras flashed as he stepped from his car. Questions bombarded him. Is it true you're seeing Yubi again? Are the rumors about the song real? Is this a comeback or a confession? He didn't answer. He just walked, expression unreadable. Inside, though, his thoughts were chaos. That night, he opened his phone to find a new message from Yubi. Maybe we should meet. Just to talk. He read it twice. His pulse quickened. He typed only one word in reply. When? Rain again. Jungkook secretly writes a song about his meeting with Yubi while she faces pressure to deny their connection, forcing both to choose between honesty and survival in the spotlight. The clock read 2:47 a.m. when Jungkook finally stopped strumming. The faint hum of his guitar faded into the dim light of his studio. Outside, Seoul was sleeping under the aftermath of the storm, wet streets glimmering like liquid glass under flickering street lamps. But inside, the world was still spinning for him that he stared at the lyrics scribbled on his notepad. The words were simple, raw. Every line a confession he could never speak aloud. You said goodbye to protect me, but silence became our ghost. Now the rain remembers everything. Even when we try to lose, he paused, fingers brushing the page as though afraid the ink might bleed away. Then he leaned closer to the mic, whispering the melody into being. The sound was low, aching, full of the restraint he'd carried for years. Rain again, he murmured under his breath. The title felt right. Painfully right. He hit record. By dawn. The track existed. A heartbeat caught in sound, a secret disguised as art. He saved the file, naming it rainagain_demo1.mp3, and sat back exhausted. But even as sleep tugged at him, one thought refused to leave. Would she hear it? Across the city, Yubi sat in a conference room that felt colder than usual. Her manager and agency director were waiting, both with that careful, calculating tone that always preceded bad news. Yubi, her manager began, the photo shoot buzz isn't dying down. Fans are convinced something's going on between you and Jungkook. She folded her hands in her lap. Let them think what they want. The director frowned. That's not how this industry works. If you don't clarify, it affects your contracts. Brands want stability, not rumors. So what do you want me to say? She asked quietly. That it's fake? That he's nothing to me? Yes, the director said flatly. You'll issue a statement tomorrow. Something simple, professional. Her throat tightened. The air in the room felt heavy, suffocating. And if I refuse? Her manager's eyes softened with concern. Then they'll make the statement for you. Yubi looked away, fighting the sting behind her eyes. Every part of her had learned to survive this industry, to smile when it hurt, to stay silent when the truth screamed inside her. But this time, silence felt unbearable. When she left the building, the sky was gray again. She pulled her coat tighter and walked aimlessly through the streets until her phone buzzed. A message, unknown file received. rainagain_demo1.mp3 her breath caught. She tapped it open. The first note played, soft, trembling, familiar. Then his voice, low, steady, heartbreakingly sincere. That I kept the echoes you left behind. In every drop, I still find her name. That we never said goodbye. Not really, we just got lost in the rain. Her eyes filled before she could stop them. Every word was him, every pause, every ache. She pressed the phone closer to her chest, closing her eyes. You idiot, she whispered. You're going to get us both in trouble. But her lips trembled into a smile anyway. That night, she couldn't sleep. Instead, she listened to the song over and over, letting it replay until dawn painted her room gold. Where a manager called, she ignored it. When her publicist texted about the statement, she left it unread. Hours later, she opened her notes app and began typing something of her own. Sometimes, the truth isn't for the world. It's just for two people who still care. She hesitated, then hit post on her private fan account, the one only a few loyal followers knew. Within minutes, the post spread like wildfire. Fans connected the dots instantly. Theories exploded. She's talking about Jungkook. The Rain lyric, it from his new song. They're still in love, aren't they? By evening, Rain again had leaked online. No one knew how. The melody flooded every corner of the internet. TikTok edits, YouTube covers, fan threads dissecting every lyric. HYB went in a crisis mode. So did her agency. Statements were drafted, damage control strategies whispered in panicked conference rooms. But Jungkook didn't care. Sitting in his apartment, watching the storm of reactions unfold, he felt oddly calm. Because for the first time in years, he hadn't hidden. He'd written the truth, and the world had listened. That night, Yubi called. Her voice was soft, almost lost under the sound of rain outside. Did you mean for it to get out? No, he said honestly. But maybe it was supposed to. There was silence, the kind that said everything words couldn't. Then she asked, barely above a whisper, "Do you regret it?" He smiled faintly, staring out at the city lights. No, do you? Her pause lasted long enough to hurt. Then came her quiet reply. Not anymore. The rain began again, steady and unrelenting, washing the city clean. Somewhere between the drops and the echoes of their voices, something fragile yet unstoppable began to bloom again, an unfinished story, finding its way back into the light. The last light before dawn as Jungkook and Lisa face their final battle for truth. Love becomes their rebellion, and the world must finally decide whose story it believes that the city was waking up to chaos. Screens in every cafe, subway, and billboard flickered with the same image. Jungkook and Lisa, hand in hand, staring into the camera, no longer hiding. The world had turned their confession into a revolution. But revolutions, Jungkook knew, always came with a price. He stood by the window of his apartment, the dawn just beginning to bleed orange through the smog. Lisa sat on the couch behind him, scrolling through messages, millions of them. Support, hate, hope, threats. Every word felt like a reflection of the storm they'd unleashed. They're demanding statements from both agencies, Lisa murmured, her voice heavy. And the news says we'll be banned from performing for a while. Jungkook turned, his expression calm but resolute. They can ban us from the stage, but they can't silence what we've already said. Lisa looked up at him, her eyes tired but shining. You really think this will change anything? He smiled faintly. It already has. Hours later, the press conference began, not one controlled by the agencies, but by them in OPR filters. No managers, just two artists sitting behind a plain wooden table, microphones lined up before them, cameras flashing like gunfire. Lisa was dressed simply in white, her hijab-style scarf framing her face with quiet defiance. Jungkook wore a black jacket, the silver of his ring catching the light. Thank you for coming, Lisa began, her voice steady despite the chaos. We're not here to explain ourselves. We're here to tell the truth. She took a breath. Someone within YG's management leaked private recordings of us. They tried to control the story by making us the villains. But love isn't scandal. It's a human right. The room buzzed, reporters whispering, flashes firing. Jungkook leaned forward, his gaze sharp. We've both served our fans for years. We've given everything to the industry that raised us. But somewhere along the way, it stopped being about music and became about control. We're not property. We're people. A hush fell over the room. Then, one brave journalist asked the question that had lingered for months. Do you still love each other? Lisa turned to Jungkook. He met her gaze, and in that quiet exchange, the world seemed to pause. Yes, he said simply. I always will. The simplicity of it, no drama, no script, was what broke the world open that night. Something unprecedented happened. Both HYB and YG faced massive public backlash. Petitions surged. Shareholders demanded accountability. Within 48 hours, Minji was officially terminated, and her involvement in the leaks became front-page news. But Jungkook and Lisa didn't celebrate. They disappeared from the city. Far from Seoul, in a small seaside town, they walked hand in hand along the empty shore. The wind was sharp, the sea restless. And yet, for the first time in months, they were free. Lisa kicked at the sand, her laughter quiet but real. I forgot what silence sounds like. Jungkook smiled, pulling her close. It's the sound of peace. She rested her head on his shoulder. Do you think they'll ever forgive us? He was quiet for a long time before answering. Maybe forgiveness isn't what we need. Maybe it's understanding. The waves crashed harder, the tide creeping closer. Lisa slipped her fingers between his. So what now? Now, Jungkook said, looking at the horizon, we live for ourselves. Weeks passed. The media frenzy began to fade, replaced by newer scandals and fresher distractions. But something had changed. Fans began to speak differently. The hashtags evolved from gossip to advocacy. Hashtag let them be became hashtag artists are human, that a movement was born. Not about Jungkook and Lisa alone, but about every artist who had ever been silenced for being human. And in that quiet revolution, their story found meaning beyond the noise. Months later, a video appeared online. A simple one, no agencies, no glossy lighting, just Jungkook and Lisa sitting side by side in a small studio, guitars in hand. Lisa looked into the camera, smiling softly. We wrote this together. It's called The Last Light Before Dawn. Jungkook strummed the first chord. The melody was raw and aching, a blend of heartbreak, defiance, and hope. Their voices intertwined, not as idols, but as people who had survived something beautiful and brutal. We burned, but we're still breathing. We fell, but love kept leading. If the night won't end, then we'll be the light again. When the song ended, neither of them spoke. They didn't need to. The video went viral again, but this time, it wasn't about scandal. It was about healing. Years later, people would still talk about it. The night Jungkook and Lisa chose truth over fame. The moment they refused to let love be turned into a crime. And somewhere, in that quiet coastal town, two voices would rise again every morning with the sun. Proof that even in a world built on illusions, something real can still survive. Because love, once spoken in truth, never truly disappears. It just finds new ways to echo. Storms and hidden truths. Rain Again goes viral, forcing Jungkook and Yubi to face their feelings publicly, while hidden betrayals and industry pressure threatened their fragile reunion. The sun rose over Seoul, casting long shadows across the city streets. But inside Jungkook's apartment, daylight barely penetrated the haze of news alerts, fan posts, and social media notifications. Rain Again wasn't just trending, it was dominating every platform, every conversation. The world had finally heard what he had kept inside for years, and it was impossible to ignore the tidal wave that followed. Jungkook sat on the edge of his bed, staring blankly at his phone. Every notification pinged like a hammer against his skull. Screenshots, fan theories, edits, and even magazine articles, some praising his honesty, others speculating scandal. Despite the chaos, he felt a strange calm. He had let the song speak the truth. He could no longer hide. Then his phone vibrated with a call. He hesitated before answering. Yubi? His voice was tense, barely holding together. Yeah. Her voice, soft and steady, carried the weight of exhaustion. We need to talk, publicly. He swallowed. I know. They agreed to meet in a small studio tucked away from the public eye, a neutral space where no cameras or microphones could intrude. When they saw each other, the tension was palpable. Jungkook's hands twitched, almost unconsciously reaching for hers, and Yubi's eyes betrayed a swirl of worry, longing, and determination. People are already speculating, she said, breaking the silence. If we don't say something, the narrative will be written for us. He nodded. I don't want lies between us anymore. Not now. Together, they crafted a brief statement, simple, honest, without fanfare. It was a confession and a boundary in one. Their connection was real, their emotions undeniable, but their privacy was still theirs. They released it simultaneously on social media, hearts pounding as the send button was pressed. Almost immediately, the world erupted. Fans flooded the internet with support, excitement, and relief. Yet amid the praise, a subtle undercurrent of tension emerged. Hidden agendas lurked within the industry. Executives murmured about brand risks, tabloids teased scandal, and someone within the agency seemed unusually eager to exploit the chaos. Jungkook and Yubi met privately later that night. The studio lights were dim, casting soft shadows across the walls. "Do you feel like we're under attack?" Yubi whispered, eyes wide, hand brushing against his. "Not exactly attack," he replied. "More like a test. And I don't want to fail at this time. Not with you." Her lips curved into a tentative smile. "Neither do I." They shared a quiet moment, letting the weight of months, perhaps years, melt into a shared breath. The world outside continued its frenzy, but inside that small studio, it was just the two of them. Yet the calm was fleeting. By morning, leaked emails hinted at a betrayal. Someone had deliberately pushed their private messages and the song demo into the public eye. Questions swirled. Was it an inside job? Was someone trying to manipulate them, to create drama for profit? Jungkook's jaw tightened as he read the emails. "It's someone from our teams," he muttered. "They want to control the narrative, and they don't care about us." Yubi's hand found his, squeezing tightly. "Then we handle it together. No secrets, no lies. Just us." The rest of the day became a balancing act. Interviews, statements, social media posts, all carefully managed to maintain honesty without surrendering their autonomy. Every time the public clamored for details, they stayed grounded in the truth. Their connection was genuine, fragile, and worth protecting. As night fell, Seoul glittered beneath them like scattered jewels. Jungkook and Yubi found a rooftop to escape the chaos, the wind tugging gently at their coats. "I never thought it would feel like this," Yubi said, looking out at the cityscape. "Exposed, but safe because we're together." He wrapped an arm around her shoulder, holding her close. "We've survived the rain before," he murmured. "We can survive everything else too." For the first time in years, the storm outside mirrored the storm inside them. But this time, they faced it side by side. And while the world continued to buzz, speculate, and gossip, Jungkook and Yubi shared a rare, quiet victory. Truth, connection, and the courage to confront whatever came next together. The shadow behind the camera as Jungkook and Lisa hunt for the truth behind their leak. A hidden betrayal emerges. One that threatens to destroy not just their love, but everything they ever stood for. The sound of rain returned that night, heavier than before, pounding against the glass of the small studio where Jungkook and Lisa sat in silence, watching the grainy video loop again and again. The camera's perspective was wrong. Too still. Too close. "This wasn't some random fan," Jungkook muttered, rewinding the footage frame by frame. "Look at the reflection on the glass door. Someone was waiting for us." Lisa leaned in, her brows furrowing. "It's the same coat, the same person who followed us in Paris." Her voice was barely a whisper. "That night we thought it was paparazzi." Jungkook froze. His pulse hammered in his throat. "You think this is connected to the first leak?" "I don't think," Lisa said softly. "I know." Her mind flashed back to that night in France. The way the same shadow had lingered behind the hotel lobby's mirrored columns, the flicker of a lens that she dismissed as paranoia. But now, the shape of that shadow was burned into her memory. She swallowed hard. "There's someone behind all this. Someone who doesn't just want to expose us, they want to ruin us." Jungkook clenched his fists. "Then we find out who." They reached out to the only person Jungkook still trusted outside of the industry. An old friend, Jehun, a former tech consultant who now worked in digital forensics, in a dim cafe tucked between Seoul's neon alleys. Jehun met them in a booth far from the window. His laptop glowed faint blue, reflecting in his glasses as he plugged in a drive. "You weren't paranoid," he said after 10 minutes of silence. "Whoever filmed this used high-grade surveillance gear. Something you can't buy off the shelf. And the metadata's been wiped clean." Lisa frowned. "So we can't trace it?" Jehun smirked faintly. "I didn't say that." He tapped a few more keys. "There's a signature in the code. It's a digital watermark." "A watermark?" Jungkook leaned forward. "Yeah, every security agency has one. It's like a fingerprint. And this one," Jehun's tone darkened. Belongs to someone who used to work for YG's internal media protection team. Lisa's blood ran cold. That's impossible. Those people protect us from leaks. Jahun turned the laptop toward her. On the screen was a name. Minji Park. For a second, the world stopped. No, Lisa whispered. She wouldn't. Jungkook's jaw tightened. She was the one who showed up at your apartment after the live stream. She already knew what to say, how to twist it. Maybe because she planned it. Lisa shook her head, tears welling up. She was like a sister to me. She protected me for years. She protected your image, Jungkook said quietly. Not you. The weight of betrayal settled like a blade between them. The next day, Lisa requested a private meeting at YG headquarters. They tried to stop her at the door, but one look from her, a mixture of exhaustion and fire, was enough to silence the staff. When Minji entered the boardroom, her smile was polite, professional, and cold. Lisa, I didn't expect to see you here. Lisa stood across from her, fingers trembling but eyes steady. You leaked the video. Minji didn't flinch. That's a serious accusation. You followed us. From Paris to Seoul. You knew every place we went. You used me. A pause. The hum of the air conditioner filled the silence. Finally, Minji exhaled slowly and walked toward the window. You were supposed to be the perfect face of YG. Untouchable, controlled. But then you fell for him. Do you know what that did to the balance we built? Lisa's voice broke. You betrayed me because of balance? Minji turned, her expression hard. Because love isn't part of the brand. You were going to destroy everything. I couldn't let that happen. Lisa stepped closer, her fury sharp as glass. So you destroyed me instead. Minji's eyes flickered, just for a second, with guilt. You think I wanted this? I tried to warn you, but you wouldn't listen. You didn't warn me, Lisa hissed. You recorded me. For the first time, Minji had no answer. The door burst open. Jungkook entered, flanked by Jahun holding a laptop. We traced the original file to your personal server. Minji, it's over. Minji's composure cracked just slightly, but she smirked anyway. You think this will save you? The public doesn't care who leaked it. They only care that it happened. Then we'll make them care, Jungkook said, his voice calm but seething as he turned to Lisa. Let's end this on our terms. That night, they went live again. But this time, there were no tears, no confusion, just clarity. Lisa looked into the camera and said, this isn't about scandal. It's about control. Someone tried to decide who we're allowed to be. But we're done living under someone else's script. Jungkook took her hand, his voice steady. We were never the problem. The system that treats love like a crime is. Within minutes, the stream exploded across the internet again. But this time, something shifted. The comments weren't just gossip, they were rage. Fans demanded truth, justice, accountability. Hashtag Let the Be trended worldwide. And in her apartment, Minji watched the chaos unfold with shaking hands, her phone lighting up with calls from YG's legal department. Outside, the world was changing. Inside the studio, Jungkook turned to Lisa, eyes soft but alive with something new, something unbreakable. We started this in fear, he said quietly. Let's finish it in fire. Lisa smiled through the tears she didn't let fall. Together, the screen faded to black, but in the shadows of Seoul's digital networks, something stirred. An encrypted message sent from a hidden account. They think they've won. But the final act hasn't even begun. Beneath the spotlight, as rain again soars, hidden enemies in the industry emerge, testing Jungkook and Yubi's trust and forcing them to navigate fame, jealousy, and betrayal together. The glow of studio monitors filled the room, casting a cold light over Jungkook's tense face. He leaned back in his chair, reviewing contracts, statements, and screenshots of leaked messages. The viral success of Rain Again had brought waves of support, but it had also attracted predators, people who saw influence, not art, and connections, not humanity. Jungkook, look at this, his assistant said, sliding a tablet across the desk. The screen displayed a forum thread filled with speculation about his relationship with Yubi. But embedded in the chaos were subtle accusations, claims that the song leak had been orchestrated intentionally to boost publicity. Names were hinted at, Managers, stylists, even staff within their agencies that he clenched his fists. Someone is manipulating this, he muttered, jaw tight, trying to turn it into a scandal. Across town, Yubi faced a parallel storm. Her agency demanded she participate in a live-stream Q&A to calm fans. But hidden questions were planted in the script, questions designed to provoke, mislead, and sow discord. Every move she made was scrutinized, every glance recorded, every word parsed for insinuation. She sat in her dressing room, scrolling through drafts of prepared answers, her mind racing. Do I defend myself? Do I fight back? Or do I let him handle it? Each option carried risk, each choice a potential betrayal of the fragile trust she and Jungkook had rebuilt. When the call came from Jungkook, it was more than just reassurance. It was strategy. We handle this together, he said firmly over the line. We speak the truth, and we don't let them control us. No leaks, no lies. Only us. She exhaled, feeling a surge of relief. I trust you, she whispered. But I'm scared. People won't stop. They might try, he admitted. But fear doesn't win when we face it side by side. Later that evening, they arranged a private meeting in a secluded cafe near the Han River. Outside, neon lights reflected on puddles from the evening rain, creating a kaleidoscope of color on the wet asphalt. The city moved obliviously, but inside, the tension was palpable. Yubi arrived first, sliding into the corner booth. She sipped her tea, every muscle tense. Moments later, Jungkook joined, shaking off his coat and letting the warmth of the cafe seep in. We need to map this out, he said, placing his phone and notes on the table. We identify the leaks, we confront the manipulators, and we control the narrative without compromising our truth. She nodded. And what if it backfires? What if they try to destroy us? He reached across the table, taking her hand in his. Then we fight. Together. And no matter what, we remember why we started this, the song, the truth, us. For hours, they worked. They traced messages, cross-referenced timestamps, and pieced together a network of subtle betrayals. Each discovery was a punch to the gut. Someone close had tried to exploit their emotions, their history, and their art. But with every revelation, their resolve strengthened. As the night deepened, the cafe emptied. Outside, the Han River shimmered under the city lights, mirroring the storm of emotions they had endured and survived. Yubi leaned her head against Jungkook's shoulder, exhausted yet resolute. I can't believe how deep this goes, she murmured. Neither can I, he replied, his thumb brushing against her hand. But also prove something. That no matter how tangled the industry gets, no matter the rumors, no one can erase what's real between us. For the first time in days, they allowed themselves to breathe, not as idols, not as subjects of scrutiny, but as two people navigating a world determined to control them, finding solace in the truth of each other. And as the lights of Seoul glittered in the river below, they made a silent pact. No one would manipulate their story again. Not leaks, not whispers, not betrayal. From now on, the narrative would be theirs, and theirs alone. Under the spotlight, Jungkook and Yubi confront the media together as the viral storm reaches its peak, revealing their bond, facing scrutiny, and standing strong against rumors. The press conference room was packed, lights glaring like 1,000 suns. Cameras flashed incessantly, capturing every detail. The nervous shifting of feet, the subtle tension in Yubi's shoulders, the slight tightening of Jungkook's jaw. The air smelled faintly of coffee, perfume, and the lingering tang of fear. He caught her eye across the table. Her gaze was steady but trembling, lips pressed together as if holding back a flood of emotions. He offered a small nod, a silent promise. We're in this together. The moderator stepped forward. Thank you for joining us today. We know fans and media alike have questions regarding recent rumors and the viral release of Rain Again. Let's hear from the artists themselves. Jungkook inhaled sharply. The world seemed to hold its breath. Yubi placed her hand lightly on the table, fingers brushing his. The contact was brief but grounding, a reminder that the months of tension, secrecy, and longing had brought them here, together. I want to be honest, Jungkook began, voice steady despite the storm inside. Yubi and we've known each other for years. Our connection is real. The song, it's a reflection of that truth. A flurry of camera shutters answered him. Murmurs rippled through the room. Yubi added softly, "It's difficult to navigate personal feelings in an industry that watches every move. But this us, it's genuine. We're not creating drama. We're sharing a part of ourselves." Questions came fast, some probing, others speculative. Was the song leaked intentionally? Is this a PR stunt? How do you handle rumors about your relationship? They answered in tandem, calm and resolute. Jungkook's eyes never left Yubi's, and she mirrored his composure. Together, they formed a shield against the scrutiny. The song wasn't leaked for publicity, Yubi said. It was meant to be a private expression, but once it reached the public, we chose to be honest. That's all we can do. Be truthful and protect what's real between us. A reporter pushed further. How do you handle the pressure of public attention now? Jungkook exhaled, a hint of a smile crossing his face. We focus on the things that matter. Our music, our art, and each other. Everything else is noise. Yubi's lips curved into a genuine smile. Exactly. Rumors may spread, but they don't define us. For a moment, the flash of cameras, the murmur of the crowd, and the pressure of expectation all faded. In that room, surrounded by scrutiny, they were simply two people, two hearts weathering a storm, finally standing side by side. As the conference concluded, the duo stepped outside into the crisp evening air. Fans waiting beyond barricades erupted into cheers, waving signs, and shouting their support. Jungkook and Yubi waved, their hands brushing naturally, a silent testament to the bond the world had tried to question. "I never imagined it would feel like this," Yubi said, her voice soft but exhilarated as they walked toward their car. "Facing it together changes everything." Jungkook replied, thumb brushing against hers. "No rumor, no industry pressure, nothing can break this us." The night sky above Seoul stretched endlessly, stars twinkling through the haze of city lights. It wasn't perfect. They knew challenges still lay ahead, whispers of jealousy and sabotage would linger, and the industry would never stop watching. But for the first time, Jungkook and Yubi didn't feel small beneath the spotlight. They felt alive, unafraid, and unshakably connected. The viral storm had tested them, but it had also revealed a truth stronger than any rumor. A bond built on honesty, courage, and the enduring power of shared hearts. As they disappeared into the night. Hand in hand, the city continued to pulse around them. The world could speculate, scrutinize, and sensationalize, but they had reclaimed their story. And in that reclamation, they found not just love, but freedom.